This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Sacramento today, joined by none other than John Moorlach, member of the California State Senate, representing significant portions of Orange County. I must say, one never knows where one will derive inspiration. And you drove, whatever word you want to use, inspiration from none other than AB 32, the Global Climate Change Act of 2006. Tell us about what that act did and how it inspired you.
Yeah, that was a Fran Pavley bill.
Yes.
And then it morphed into SB 32
It did.
last year, which says, hey, you've got to bring carbon monoxide levels down to 1990 levels by the year 2020.
Okay.
2030.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, you got to have a gradual decline. And so we thought, let's take that bill number.
Let's take that bill number and let's morph it a bit.
And let's say we take our current unfunded pension liabilities, which are at 260
Right.
billion, whatever number you want to use, and let's get it back down to 1980 levels. Let's just
see
if it's good enough for the climate.
It's good enough for
control,
pensions.
Change people. It should be applicable. We think if it's a good idea for that, it should be a good idea for
And think about it. I mean, if we're saving the world, arguably, with AB 32 and SB 32, can we save California?
or at least the retirement benefits from those who've retired. Because if this plan doesn't get its act together and do it soon, we're going to have some awkward financial
And so let's
issues.
talk. I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek admittedly.
You're doing
but,
great.
But let's do talk about it.
You're in the
because-
wrong business. You should be in comedy.
There you have it. We have been grappling with pension reform, sir, for quite some time. And you know from what you speak. You were you became treasurer as a result of a pension collapse.
An investment portfolio pool, not a pension,
Okay.
but pension funds were in it.
In Orange County in the
Orange County.
90s. And so Governor Brown a few years ago did look at pension reform.
PEPRA?
Yeah, PEPRA, which is the PEPRA Act 2013.
2013 Public Retirement Act. It's a
And-
reform act, and Governor Brown tried.
Right.
He had a real narrow window. He tried to get things done. Didn't get much support
Were
from
you
the
here
public
yet?
employee unions. No, I was.
You weren't
up
here
in-
yet.
I was
Okay.
still down in Orange County, and we kind of saw, oh my goodness, they're doing this, in a real narrow window before the end of session. And he got a lot of concessions, but he didn't get everything he wanted. So we thought, now that pension plans are really suffering from low investment returns.
That's what's devastating. I mean, I remember, sir, you know better than me, we were saying predictions of 7%. And that was kind of, a 7% return annually. What are we getting, 1%, 2%?
Yeah, 2.4 2 years ago and 0.61, less than 1% last year. And if it
devastating.
were not for the Trump bump post the election of November 8th, the stock market was giving us maybe 2-3%. So it might give us 5%, but that's still not
not
enough
7.
to meet the 7.5.
Right.
Because you're going to have your equity portfolio, which makes up a bulk of the pension system, and then you have your fixed income, your bonds.
Right.
And so those are going to be low yielding, and so you're going to
So
net them out, and it's going to be low.
So let's talk about some of your ideas for pension reform, because right now we're about 68% funded,
Right.
and people are living longer, which presents challenges. And so you have some ideas that have been bandied around. I want to talk about a couple of them. Decreasing retiree. Well, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how much reform can we do when the contracts are already negotiated? You see where I'm going? Because so much of pension reform is you've entered into a bargain, and the courts have been very wary about reforming existing pension plans. Is that clear?
Yes, it's a great question, in fact.
Please.
And we've got 2 lawsuits now going to the state Supreme Court
Right.
to deal with what we call the California rule, which would take me 5 minutes to
Okay,
explain.
but-
most of the things from a constitutional standpoint have to be prospective.
Right.
You can't,
In the future.
in the future. So there's a lot of things that need to be fixed in the future. But we're finding that with these cases going to the state Supreme Court, that pension systems aren't sacrosanct and aren't locked in concrete.
Right.
You can actually change them.
You
and
can
in
look
fact, you're going
backward.
to have to do that in say, let's say the city of Detroit.
Right.
When you go into a federal bankruptcy
that was a
court,
bankruptcy, right.
The federal judge can say, hey, guess what? You're in federal court. I can rescind
Right.
state contracts.
But we're not
welcome.
there.
We're not there. But it's still, for the integrity of the pension as a whole, the participants have to start realizing things need to be
So
modified.
the question becomes, for the health of the plan in general, maybe we need to start rolling back benefits, but do we need to go back to the beneficiaries and or their bargaining units and say, will you agree to this?
Technically, for anything prospective.
No.
You can make the change, but you do have to. You may have to make it a meet and confer item.
Right, but what about
it's a
backward?
little different at backwards. Retroactive is going to be tough.
Tough, okay.
But let's say we can do some things going forward. Right now, if we're not earning enough money, and we're less than 70% funded, and if you're below 80%, it's not good. Okay. Then maybe we should stop giving COLAs, the cost of living adjustments. Maybe we freeze those until we're fully funded, so that everybody participates, including the beneficiaries, because we have to maintain the financial integrity of the plan.
But what about those folks that rely on their pensions to live, and you have inflation, albeit minor, but you know, if inflation's 2% a year and you freeze COLAs for 10 years, let's say, I mean, all of a sudden,
I know there's a lot of sad stories, and I appreciate the liberal pull it out, the tears and the sob. But those people didn't stand up and say, "What are you doing, improving these pension formulas retroactive to the data higher?" Because we were 100% funded when SB 400 was approved in 1999. We were 100% funded, and when you give a 50% increase in the formula from the date of hire, you are now 2/3 funded. You know, here's 3 pieces of paper. Here's 100%. Now you got to give this. So where does this 50% come from?
There's no question.
And so, and I didn't see the retirees say, "Wait a second, don't screw with my pension system. How can you improve benefits like that?" So I might be a little cold-hearted, but I'm kind of saying, hey, wait, time out. Don't give me the sob story. We're here to fix it. We got to move forward, because what happens to airline pilots when their airlines goes bankrupt? They get a little card. And it says, "Sorry, we only have 40% of what we have."
Enron, I mean,
you're right. And so let's try and get as much of the 100% as we can by doing the simple fixes. Now, in the state of California, when you retire, you get to use your final year's earnings.
Right.
So people spike their last year's salary.
Didn't
That's got to stop.
That?
I think we need to go from 1 year to 5 years. I'm not so sure Pepper fixed that.
I'm not sure either. So forgive me.
Yeah.
I want to talk more generally about kind of negotiation over this or otherwise. Because here we are, we have a new administration in Washington. We can say a lot of things about Donald Trump, but he's a negotiator. I mean, that's what he is at heart. He's a deal maker.
Yeah.
And one could argue that our opening salvo vis-a-vis the new administration, maybe not the best negotiating ploy. Hiring Eric Holder, former Attorney General, indicating you do X, Y, and Z, we're going to sue. What do you think about California's negotiating strategy?
I think it's showmanship. And it probably plays well in certain districts.
Sure.
I don't think it plays well in mine.
Huh. Although Orange County voted blue for the first time in decades.
Yeah, and? I don't think it plays well in my district. I don't think that putting up a bluster and being defiant is a smart way to get to the table.
Right.
And so I've said, please, let's show leadership. Why don't we build a blue ribbon committee? Let's work together with the Trump administration, and let's make sure we protect what we already have. We get $100 billion a year. Yeah. We get $100 billion a year in federal funds into California, and by the way, 85% of that goes to local cities and counties. Why are we jeopardizing in Sacramento the funding that goes to cities and counties? That's not prudent.
Right, and by the way, the federal government, the president, has authority over federal funds. We know that constitutionally. He can withdraw federal funds if he so chooses.
I can see him calling Jerry Brown saying, hey, that high-speed rail thing.
Good luck to you.
Yeah. And then maybe the governor gets it and he tells the Democratic leadership, knock it off.
His name is John Moorlach, member of the California State Senate. My name is Brad Pomerance in Sacramento, Local Edition.